This is the Star Wars podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 4, Fallen Jedi.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
Interesting. He never mentioned you.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became. Surely that must leave a mark. Is that why you walked away? Abandoned him?
I'm not here to discuss my past.
The only reason I'm here is to secure the future.
For you?
Something far greater.
Ambitious.
Necessary.
And you find starting another war necessary?
I'm not starting a war. But Thrawn will. It is an unfortunate evil, but speaks to a greater truth. One must destroy in order to create.
Welcome back, fellow Sith and Jedi. You are listening to the Star Wars podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Ahsoka Episode 4, Fallen Jedi, because there's so many in this episode and there's so much to talk about. I am one of your hosts, Chopper. This is what I sound like on a good day. I usually have strep. It comes out. It's a bit more like that, but you know, it's like I've finally got a good voice box. I am joined by two other illustrious hosts as well.
Hello there, fellow rebels. Welcome back. Yes, I am one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out the group, I'm Derek. And in true TV podcast industry style, we've had a scheduling conflict, which means we're recording earlier. Unlike every other podcast who has a scheduling conflict and records later, we've decided to record earlier than normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always good.
Exactly. It was such a good episode. We were like, we can't push it back. We can't miss out. Do you know what? Let's upend our lives more and jump in for 90 minutes of podcast goodness to discuss Ahsoka.
Exactly.
Yes, before we get into our spoiler-filled discussion, fellow rebels, remember you can subscribe over on any Sith or Jedi podcast catcher of your choice. Over on tvpodcastindustries.com. We also love to get your feedback on all things crazy that's going on in the world of Ahsoka. So please send in your emails to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or head on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where you can join our spoiler posts for all your theories, observations, what the about Ahsoka Season 1.
Yes, folks. And don't forget, we are also doing our ever forceful, ever amazing Cantina pub quiz. Each and every episode of Ahsoka, we pull together the best of all quizable quiz questions.
Sometimes.
And we ask it. And we ask you to pull your answers together and send them to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com at the end of the season, and you are in the chance to win some Ahsoka goodies if your name is drawn out of the hat and you have all the right answers. Yes.
Excellent. Sorry, I was chuckling away there, Chris, because you may have over-egged the pudding on the quality of the questions, certainly given we're recording ahead of time. I think this week's question is a little standard, but anyway.
Hey, look.
Let's have an easy one.
It's not standard. It's basically the easy before the hard.
Maybe.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Maybe.
Episode 5 is going to be so hard. It's going to be
really tough. Yeah.
It's going to be an AT&T Walker.
Yeah. You'll need to have
hard.
done a degree in
Astrology.
In astrology at Oxford University, I guess.
Definitely.
Just to answer it.
Definitely don't oversell this, but I will say Dr. Bob Phillips, who does enter our pub quizzes, did say the 3 questions that we asked on the first 3 episodes of Wheel of Time are the hardest questions we've asked so far in the history of our quizzes. So he does believe they're getting harder. Maybe we keep it light and easy for Ahsoka, though.
Maybe not. Who knows? But let's wait, because we have so much to discuss before we get to the Cantina pub quiz. So, should we jump in, gentlemen, with our thoughts, discussions on episode 4 of Ahsoka, Fallen Jedi? Derek, do you want to tell us who gave us what, where, when, and how with this beautiful episode?
Absolutely. Executive producers for this show, of course, are Dave Filoni, John Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, Colin Wilson, and Carrie Beck. Showrunner for the show, of course, Dave Filoni, who has written every episode so far up to episode 4, definitely from his visions from Star Wars and Rebels, right?
I guess he's gone to the world between worlds as well.
I think we may have to explain what that means to some of our lovely Rebels. Listening along to us.
Yes, you do, but we'll get there on that discussion point later.
Absolutely. Episode 4 was directed by Peter Ramsey. He was director on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and also directed Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, which is interesting because that's the episode where the pirates attack Nevarro and featured Rebel Captain Carson Teva, who we see appearing in this episode alongside Hera.
Yeah, but we also didn't see someone else who should have been there, but that's another point for their discussion.
We will talk about that, yes, absolutely. Good stuff. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 4, Fallen Jedi?
Sure. On Seatos, as they try to repair the ship, Ahsoka thinks about the implications of reaching Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger, and the possibility of having to destroy the hyperspace ring to prevent Morgan Elsbeth and Baylan Skoll from reaching Thrawn, giving Sabine Wren pause, since she remains determined to find her friend. Moments later, they are attacked by several of Morgan Elsbeth's forces, but are able to hold them off. Fearing that Elsbeth will acquire the coordinates to Thrawn's location, Ahsoka and Wren head to the henge on Seatos, but are intercepted by Shin Hati and Marrok. Ahsoka kills Marrok and continues on alone, while Wren stays behind to hold off Hati. Ahsoka reaches Baylan Skoll and the two engage in a duel. Ahsoka is able to retrieve the map, but she tosses it aside after it burns her hand. Skoll overpowers Ahsoka and sends her plummeting into the ocean as Wren watches in horror. Sabine then holds the map at gunpoint, threatening to destroy it, but Baylan calls her bluff and manipulates her into handing the star map over, promising her that she will see Ezra Bridger again. After Thrawn's location is revealed, Skoll destroys the map and boards the Eye of Sion with Shin Hati, Sabine Wren, and Morgan Elsbeth, as a small fleet of New Republic fighters arrive in the Denab system, led by Hera Syndulla in her ship, the Ghost. She is joined by her son Jason and Chopper to stop the ship from jumping into hyperspace, but fail to prevent the Eye of Sion from making the jump. Meanwhile, Ahsoka awakens in the world between worlds, where she is seemingly reunited with her former master, Anakin Skywalker.
What? How does this happen? What's the world between worlds? How is Anakin Skywalker here?
Exactly.
I know we're going to talk about as much detail in this podcast as we can, but we will not have an explanation for why this happened until next week.
We did mention it obliquely last week with the owl, because this world between worlds, there was no owl, no cute owl, which was a shame.
Yeah.
But there was a cute Hayden Christensen instead, going sort of twittering away as well to Ahsoka. Or no, he didn't say a thing, did he? So of course. But yeah, so shame about the cute little owl. But we did.
That is a weird detail to remember. I do not remember the owl, and I have seen that episode multiple times.
Because Ezra's basically loves animals.
Yes, but we will have a little bit of an explanation for the world between worlds. But hold on until next week. I think that's probably what I'll say.
Yeah. Touch wood, we'll have some kind of explanation that will ultimately be proven wrong, I guess.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Well, we'll see. I have a few thoughts, but gentlemen, we'll jump in straight to our top points for this episode as part of our discussion, and we'll start with save point number 1. Shin and Marrok on the hunt for Sabine and Ahsoka. So, Remember how we were like, oh my god, who's going to be Marrok? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's exactly.
All last episode, we had all of these thoughts.
Yeah.
It literally, in a puff of smoke,
Yeah, well,
they got rid of that whole thing.
That was interesting.
It was, wasn't it? Because, we had all these
Turned to
theories about
dust.
who in Star Wars this character could possibly be, and it turns out it's the black smoke from Lost that they've actually incorporated into this show. Disney do own the rights to Lost now, right? It was an
They
ABC
do.
show, so maybe they're just merging those two worlds.
But I don't recall any sort of Force user turning to dust like Voldemort, effectively.
This is
you know?
basically Dave Filoni saying, hey, JJ, you know that favor you owe me?
Uh-huh.
Now, here you go. There you go. We're paid. We're equal. We're good.
We're taking the black smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I think weirdly, and I think some of our fellow rebels who are in our Facebook group might not believe me on this. We had not seen this episode in advance at all, but my post for the spoiler post for this week was lots of people are going to be very disappointed when they find out that Marrok is just Marrok, despite all the internet ideas that this could be Starkiller and this could be Ezra. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed because they built it up in their head that this is going to be a character. We talked about it a lot last week and said, we don't think it is. That was our speculation. And then we went, because we're so definite that that it's not Ezra Bridger, that it will be. So it isn't confirmed here.
No, that is true.
But it's interesting.
But it is French from Morocco. So there we go.
There you go.
It's also, it's basically a force fart. It's held together by by a suit. Essentially, that's what it is.
It's a sentient black cloud that's been able to control this armor that it's carrying, basically. That's what we think.
Or the metachlorians have come alive.
He mentioned the M word again.
Swarm.
We had to edit that out the last time we mentioned the M word, didn't we?
I know.
Yeah.
But, so look, this is really, this is a whole cool fight scene. We're going to get to the two individual fight scenes to discuss because there's both elements are great.
Mm-hmm.
And also the assassin droid versus our protocol droid. Always interesting.
Well, our professor droid, Huyang.
Professor.
Yes.
Protocol. Tomato. No,
not a
definitely
protocol
professor.
droid.
Okay.
This is not the same level as C-3PO. This is our Jedi trainer droid.
Yes, which you could tell in this fight. 'Cause
Yes,
he
you
was
could.
keeping that assassin droid at bay for a good while. He held his own there against that assassin droid.
Using his two little tiny arms as well.
Yeah, exactly, like a T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, these are my big arms. These are my tiny arms.
Yeah.
And he just slaps the assassin droid. This was cool. Like, 3 separate fights, 3 different aspects of the team. So you do see Huyang basically holding his own until essentially the lights go out and we have Ahsoka and Sabine come through and basically go after them.
Yeah.
I thought this was Huyang again. Like the only problem I had, and I don't usually go after the CGI ever really that much.
Yep.
It just looked stiff. As I know they're droids, but we've seen droids in literally like other Star Wars shows be a bit less stiff and less kind of.
Literally, as a child of the 80s, seeing C-3PO, a sort of shuffle in the deserts on Tatooine, I'm perfectly happy with this level of stiffness.
I can't really imagine C-3PO carrying a weapon either, and battling. I really like this though, the fight itself with Huyang, because I like that the story itself that it's setting up is that all they have to do here to get themselves saved is fix the transmitter so they can get a signal to Hera. That's all they're trying to do here. But unfortunately, the ship massively damaged. So Huyang goes outside to fix the ship. While he's out there, gets attacked. So in order to save himself, he has to pull the power on the ship, destroying it further. So it's going to be even more damaged and it's going to take him ages to resolve it. So I really like that was the resolution to the fight as well. He knew he couldn't take on an assassin droid. These things are mental. These things are really, really powerful fighters. They're really adept fighters. So, so he did what he could do and put themselves into a worse position. So that feels like a Star Wars moment.
Yeah. And he was right to do it as well, because I mean, in all honesty, Ahsoka and Sabine really dealt with the attackers quite in short shrift, really.
Yeah.
Gave them short shrift because, they were dispatched pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did like the move from Ahsoka where she pulls the one of the attackers in line with the droid about to fire on Sabine.
So cool.
Sort of killing the attacker. So that was really good. But yeah, I mean, they really dispatched them quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pretty efficient.
Because they had bigger targets ahead, right?
Yeah, and because, as in the words of Huyang, you always work better when you stay together. And they worked really well in this combat.
Mm-hmm.
And, those words echo as they run off to really kind of rousing music, to go after Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati and to kind of stop them from getting the coordinates. So, what could possibly go wrong, I guess?
I know, it was like that comment was some big foreshadowing for the rest of the episode.
How do you think this was delivered? I kind of got a glimpse of our Ahsoka character from the Clone Wars. There was a bit of a cheekiness to Rosario Dawson's performance there, because it could have come across really stilted with him going, stay together and feel like the message of the episode. But I think the reaction of Sabine and Ahsoka together kind of going, yeah, we're going to stay together. Don't you worry. Thanks so much, Dad, for protecting us. It felt like there was a bit of a cheekiness to them that felt a bit more like the old version of Ahsoka that we'd seen.
That's it. It felt like Snips, actually.
Yes.
Coming back from the Clone Wars.
Her original nickname, for those not aware, was Snips.
Yeah, exactly. And it was good as well because obviously Ahsoka has grown up since being Snips. She's matured and all that. And I think having that other lighter side of her still persisting in the character of Ahsoka is really good because it's a great trait to have, because that was always the fun thing in Clone Wars, was that even as Clone Wars got darker, there was that cheekiness from Ahsoka, and it's good to see it maintained within the live action.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and look, they show Snips, that, as you said, like that kind of cheekiness, that a bit more fun Ahsoka. But literally a few minutes before, they've had the conversation of, you need to remember, if this looks bad, we need to be okay with destroying the access to the star map. And yes, you're going to have to live with that. It stops Thrawn coming back, the big bad. We may not be able to save Ezra, but we're saving the galaxy.
Yeah.
So you have that very stark master-apprentice, or master-Padawan discussion, and even beyond that, just like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're blinded by the want and need, love of Ezra, your friend.
Yeah.
If we call it that. There's definitely going to be some romantic bit there.
Maybe.
But then they have that cheeky moment. You're like, okay, well, maybe it's like she has a point and everything's going to be okay. And then, boom, two great Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, Chris, that's a really, important point here, because it was something I was thinking about as well. Well, if we stop them, or if even the hyperspace ring is destroyed, then we won't get to see Ezra Bridger. There's no chance of going after to find Ezra Bridger. And that is really significant sort of counter scenario here that could happen. And I like how that played out, and then seeing Sabine kind of processing that and how that played out later in this episode was just really good. But it's kind of done in a way, it's because it's then immediately after you're thrust into the attack on the ship, and then they go after, and then the battle with Shin and Marrok in the forest is really good.
Absolutely. This was really cool. And I think when I was watching it first time this morning, just after I got up, I was kind of reading it and going, shouldn't Ahsoka go after the Jedi? And then since Sabine is a Mandalorian, shouldn't she go up against Marrok? Because he's the other one, basically. But of course, it's the other way around. When I watched it again afterwards, I was going, well, of course you'd have Ahsoka go after the Inquisitor, who is trained to take down Jedis. And since Sabine is a Mandalorian, Mandalorians were originally created to battle Jedis. That's where their Mandalorian armor comes from, so they can protect themselves from lightsabers. So the battle worked really well. I thought it was cool to see all of the skills that Sabine has on offer. Loved the moment when it looked like she was trying to use the Force, but actually she was just protecting the fact that she had her little arm missiles to use against Shin. I thought that was cool.
That was really good.
I read that differently.
Okay.
I read that she tried to use the Force, went, god damn it, and then just defaulted back to her little kind of stinging missiles.
It could be that way, but I like to think that Sabine has that knowledge of being a fighter and in the Mandalorian style for so long that she'll use any trick that she can use. And getting Shin off balance there with Shin thinking, oh, she doesn't even have access to the Force here. Oh, in your face, I've got missiles. I think that's kind of a good way of seeing it for me anyway.
Yeah, no, well, it was really good, that little sort of twist. Either way, Shin does kind of know that she can't access the Force, though, which, is a big weakness for Sabine Wren, or at least it may make Shin Hati overconfident for her next encounter with her. So it's kind of interesting how that little moment might play out. I know we've talked about Marrok previously. I do feel sorry for him. He was kind of a bit like After the Lord Mayor's Show type thing where, he was all shows like revving up his spinning lightsabers and Ahsoka quite coolly slices him into dust effectively. So I thought there was going to be some epic kind of battle here with the spinning lightsabers, which always look cool. And then I know. She's just like coolly slices him in half like she's preparing cucumbers for a glass of Pimm's or something.
So this, we talked about it last episode. You can see Filoni and the directors have had a discussion. Is like, go watch these Japanese samurai films, Ronin, kind of Lone Wolf and Cub, and see this fight style. This is Ahsoka. These are how I want you to kind of portray and direct and look at and kind of visualize some of these fights.
Absolutely.
They're going to be different saber stances. Think of this. And we got a beautiful medley of smorgasbord, if you will, of all the different fight styles in this whole episode.
Absolutely.
This standoff just between Marrok and Ahsoka was literally, you could black and white grey film. That's a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's literally like it's like something out of Ghost of Tsushima, a video game. It's just like, you gotta stand off, your way, and go clash.
Yeah.
She's through, and as if she literally did a Darth Maul, kind of cut him in half, and he would fall down into two parts. The only problem I can see is the internet is about to, and its fandom are gonna go crazy.
Well,
because he just turned to dust.
Yep.
So they can hopefully explain, or he recorporealizes.
Well, that's, exactly.
Or he's, because it's, the witches are involved, and the flames, and their power, and it's a bit weird and dark and magic-y, a bit more than the Force, different side of the Force, whatever way you want to call it. Maybe they have a bit more, they have necromancy type smoke monster abilities to pull together, and that's where Marrok is coming from, and he's reformed. I hope it's explained and not just a thread left, because again, you put a cool guy in a mask, we got a whole film of it for Snake Eyes based on the G.I. Joe character Snake Eyes, because he's a cool guy in a mask.
Wasn't a very good film, unfortunately.
The film was terrible, but the character from the 80s survived for 40 years and got his own film because he's that cool.
Absolutely.
I loved it. I loved Snake Eyes.
Oh, right.
G.I. Joe.
Okay. I'll skip back to the episode we're talking about.
I know.
But, the internet built itself up, and we tend to speak of the internet as this ubiquitous thing. Someone came up with a theory on their YouTube channel that this was Ezra Bridger when they saw the first poster or when they saw the first image of this character, and it just got legs. Dave Filoni has a different story in mind. It's not their fault that it didn't end up being the character that people wrap themselves up into a frenzy about, right? They're telling a really good story here. I love the idea of another Inquisitor. This is the 15th, if I've counted it right, it's about the 15th or 16th Inquisitor that has been taken out and killed by Jedis. So they are literally put in this universe to hunt Jedis, and all of them have died, in various circumstances. I've killed a few in Jedi Fallen Order. So I don't know, you have, Chris, as well. So
Cal Kestis has killed his fair share of them.
And I think
are constantly replaced.
If I'm right, Darth Vader has the highest kill count of the Inquisitors as well, even though they all worked for him. So, so they tend to die a lot. So the fact that Marrok, the Inquisitor here, died is not a massive surprise. I like that there's a thread that they can explore in the future about this black smoke, what it could possibly be.
Yeah, and I mean, even just with the Night Sisters, you know, that, like you said, I think it just makes perfect sense that you know, there is the power of Elsbeth here, you know, that, or even Baylan Skoll, so that has somehow corporalized, you know, a dust or some kind of magic that is using the Force in order to control Marrok, but ultimately, you know, it could be someone in a Bacta tank somewhere, and it's their spirit, or however they're accessing the Force or using witchcraft. It's just, you know, the difference here is that black smoke, that dust, is different.
Yes.
And it's new to, at least as far as I can see, I'm willing to be corrected on it, is new, at least for live action, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
they will be 100% something from the expanded universe back in the day, or what they call Legends now, a comic book, or something. Someone's going to say something, oh, well, they could be, like, we're going to get all of the internet YouTube videos in the next 48 hours. All I know is, like, hopefully they explain it as something in this or in a future series.
Exactly.
That's a big one.
Absolutely. I like that it sets something up that we could see in the future. I also love the reaction from Shin when she loses Marrok, because absolutely she didn't believe that they were going to take out Marrok there at all.
No.
She believed and was confident in his abilities. Again, she is an apprentice, which means traditionally that means she's new to this. So, so you would guess that she had much more confidence in his abilities than Ahsoka's ability to take him out. So I loved her reaction. That put her off balance, I guess, in that fight with Sabine as well. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Should we move on then? Because there is another major battle.
Yes, there is.
Directly after this.
Yes.
So we'll move on to saber point number 2, gentlemen. Cut to Ahsoka essentially going to the map kind of structure, whatever we're going to call it, where they
the
put
henge.
I noticed in the episode they call it a henge, so that is a reference to Stonehenge in the UK.
Okay, cool.
So I love that they did call it out, that it is a henge. So there's always mystery around Stonehenge, and always people have theories about what it was for. So I love that they've kind of called it in the Star Wars universe. These henges are effectively big map rooms. So if you have the right tools and a bit of magic, you can explore the galaxy.
Damn it. He was like, I have tools. I don't have the magic.
Exactly. Exactly.
But we get this next Jedi face-off, and really, I think, Derek, you wrote these notes. Like, you get the sense of a proper old-school Jedi Master versus Master, like, fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with you there, Chris.
So we're saying that now because, did you write that, John?
I wrote that one.
There you go. So I agree with you that this is really like, it's always like two samurais facing off, and you have you would have the dust and the leaves flutter down, and there's two distinct styles.
Absolutely.
I did expect almost like the kind of the excess kind of broadsword version that kind of Kylo Ren had for almost a second, but then I was questioning also why Ahsoka didn't bring out her second lightsaber, and
but that's it. That sense of it being two Jedi masters, facing off. I know Ahsoka isn't a full Jedi. She didn't go through the examination period at the Jedi Academy or anything like that. You know, I get it, but I mean, they're two kind of worldly, galactic traveled
Force users, if you want
Force
to call it
users.
that, yeah.
And
Massively
you really got
experienced,
that sense. And the more this goes on, this show, I really, 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 really like, dare I say it, love Baylan Skoll here.
Absolutely.
Because
He's such an interesting character.
The majesty and presence that he brought, as well as Rosario Dawson to Ahsoka in this face-off, felt epic. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. For me, it felt like Vader meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, it felt like really meaningful and important. And I just loved that. And certainly because of what Elsbeth says to Baylan before she heads off back up to the Eye of Sion, which he appears kind of apprehensive and distracted, you know, because in a sense he knows what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
this is experience. Yeah, it's not fear, it's experience.
It's like the deep breath before, you know, plunging into an icy pool. You have to prepare yourself. It's like he's just preparing himself, but he knows the reputation of Ahsoka. So this was really cool. And I have to say, the lightsaber battles here just did not play out to my expectations at all. I was really worried that we were going to lose Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati in one of these encounters. So actually, the fact that they both made it out the other side, I'm really, really like delighted or happy about, because the two great characters, and I love the master apprentice dynamic that's been set up so far. You know, which is especially a bit mysterious.
Yeah, and it's different than before. You know, in the past we've had Jedi Masters and Padawans being trained in the Force, or we've had Sith Masters training up their apprentices who eventually killed them. That's the tradition. Here we have an unknown. We have these grey Jedi, someone who was formerly a Jedi, no longer believes in that, no longer isn't moving towards the Sith side, but has an apprentice who seems to be a bit more down the Sith path. There's a moment here where Shin arrives and tries to strangle and kill Sabine Wren, completely against her master's orders. So there's a new relationship there, a kind of relationship we haven't really seen in Star Wars before, which is cool. To answer your question though, Chris, you asked why Ahsoka was only using one lightsaber. Yeah. So this isn't really a fight between the two of them. The battle here is to get the map. She's keeping one hand free so that she can hopefully grab onto the map using the Force. So it feels like the reason why this is a different style of battle and nobody ends off being dead is because it's not Ahsoka's objective to take out Baylan Skoll. His objective is to protect the map until the coordinates are read, and her objective is to get the map. So they'll battle through each other to get that objective. So
that's true, and I did like cool. how Baylan kind of positioned himself as much as he could, always between Ahsoka and the star map. Yeah, and I loved the distraction techniques that he was doing at the start by, you know, coming back to Anakin Skywalker, knowing all that, trying to sort of just trying to distract her and put her at uneasy, effectively. So I really kind of loved this. But I still think potentially, if the opportunity had arisen, there may have been a death. But I thought there was going to be with this. I was like, oh no, because of how determined Ahsoka is, I was like, okay, this is potentially not going to end well. So I'm really glad that everyone dusted themselves off and came out fine.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Absolutely. Right, job done.
Apart from Marrok.
Well, apart from Marrok, who did dust himself off as well, just a bit differently.
I'll say one controversial bit. I hope they do kill Baylan by the end of the series.
Really?
And I'm not usually the one for killing off a character.
Murderer.
But it's just because the actor himself has passed away. And otherwise, it's a weird... It would be a bit weird AI or kind of, I don't think they'd do that, but then
I'd say they just recast.
There's a huge, amazing character thing. And then recasting, I'm like, I don't know if they'll bring the same level. So again, it's one of those, do you know what? For once, I actually hope they kill off one of their amazing villain characters.
Right.
Well, just
we'll
to
get
let
there
you,
to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but interestingly, had a conversation with Derek before this, and I'm actually the opposite. I hope they don't. I know Ray Stevenson won't be there to inhabit the character, but I think the character of Baylan Skoll is great, and I think what Ray Stevenson has done is amazing. And maybe part of it is tinged with the fact that I know he's passed away, so I'm looking at it more closely, but I really enjoy this character, and I hope he survives as a character past the end, at least of this season. And you know, if they have to recast, that it's also such a great tribute to Ray Stevenson about a new character that he's brought to life for Star Wars, that they keep it going.
Maybe
So,
he has a twin brother called Jay Stevenson. It's a slot in.
you know, so I think either way, I know what you mean. I think, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because with the situation, what do you do? But I really hope they keep the character, because I thought it was really good.
Yeah, such a great battle between the two of them. Just inhabits that role so well. There's been some great moments, and I think part of the reason why I felt in that fight that he wasn't trying to kill Ahsoka was because of the regret that he was talking about when he was being told that he had to take her out. He was kind of going, well, there's not that many Jedi left in this galaxy, you know, so he doesn't really want to kill Ahsoka Tano, but he may be ordered to at some point in the future. He may have to follow that order in the future. His order here was to protect the map, but Ahsoka does get to it, and in an interesting little twist here, she picks up the map and it burns her hand and she drops it into the ground. I did notice, it was pointed out actually, did notice that's could be a reference to, or could be a way out of the situation that the crew find themselves in at the end of the episode, with no map available to them to get them to Grand Admiral Thrawn. Will the map being burnt into Ahsoka's hand be a way that they can navigate the stars?
Also, like Raiders of the Lost Ark with the Gestapo fella.
Yes, exactly like that.
Okay. So
hey, it's Lucasfilm.
Yeah, that's true. Ahsoka is now equated to a Gestapo officer.
Well, yeah, kind of.
No, she's not. I'm joking, of course. Interesting. Yeah, because Baylan immediately destroys it once they've gotten the coordinates for the Eye of Sion to jump to hyperspace. I have to say that countdown,
I loved it.
Annoyed me to bits how slow it went. I was like going, because I was just going, look, I'm just going to say it as it is. I am so glad they made the jump to hyperspace, because I was like, I mean, I guess there's no other way it was going to happen, but I was like, stop drawing it out with this.
So the only thing is, it's how many Mississippis, because each Mississippi of the segment didn't correspond to the same amount of Mississippis. No. I was like, wait, hold on, does each one like exponentially grow? Is it like you increase it by 5 per segment?
Again, I think this is down to the Death Star in Return of the Jedi, where they have the countdown as it's in firing distance of Endor, because
we will get around the moon. We'll be passing the moon.
I know, exactly. And it was just like, I was like, I mean, I remember as a kid watching that, and I literally timed it because I was like, so Endor would have been blown up, because at the time I didn't understand about dramatic or cinematic at the time. And it was like, no, okay, the Empire should have won here. This is ridiculous.
45 years later, and it still annoyed you. The timing here.
It happened the same here. Yeah, it was kind of like my own nerd PTSD or something going on about what was going on. But it was like, I was just like, I mean, I loved it, and also it infuriated me at the same time. I'm not particularly against slow countdowns or drawn out sort of coordinates being obtained from a witch's henge, but it's just like, I was like, oh no, just get the coordinates.
So we did jump over one part at the end of this, so they obviously, Baylan destroyed the map. after Sabine gave it to him. Thoughts on this? I wanted, because again, the title of the episode is Fallen Jedi, and there is many aspects of Ahsoka's a Fallen Jedi.
Yeah, she literally falls.
Yeah. We literally, well, that's actually, that too. Yeah. We also saw the death of Marrok, who potentially was a Jedi. Yeah. Because a lot of them came as Padwans for those Inquisitors. So, Fallen Jedi. We saw the ultimate Fallen Jedi at the end of the episode. We saw Sabine, who's not really a Jedi. Nope. She's not like, she's a Padawan, but technically there's no Jedi Order anymore, so is she not? Who knows? But she falls from what would be the thing that your master tells you not to do. She breaks that promise instantaneously. Also, the first step to, let's call it, the dark side, or at least the grey side, the Ahsoka side of Jedi, which is you're not supposed to have personal attachments and let them cloud your judgment. This is very much Sabine taking that first step, going, I'm going to give, quote unquote, the bad guys the key they need, because I want to see my friend. And I'm like, it's really like, it was a bit, for me, I'm like, cool, it's a bit on the nose. I was almost like expecting like to drop it and then shoot and then get kicked off herself. And that's kind of like a bit more Mandalorian-esque. Yeah. Kind of.
It's also a bit black and white for Sabine, because Sabine as a character was in the Empire. She did make weapons for the Empire before.
Yeah, she flew for the Empire.
She flew for the Empire. She's a Mandalorian, so not technically seen as good or bad characters. Yeah. They work for their bounties for the most part. You know, that's the Mandalorian way. So she is a character that will always have a grey decision.
Effectively speaking to a mercenary who deals in bounties and cash anyway.
Exactly. And also, as you mentioned earlier on, it's set up from the beginning. It was Ahsoka's plan to take out the Eye of Sion, the hyperspace ring. Yeah. It was not Sabine's, and Sabine quite clearly went, hang on a second, that means we're cutting off our way to get to Ezra. So by Baylan reading her mind, reading her thoughts, he's able to sense how to get to her and how to manipulate her into giving him the map.
Exactly.
He says, I can see from you that Ezra is your family, not just a friend, not just somebody else. This is the most important person in your life, and you know this is the only way to get to him. If you destroy it, if you get rid of it, you have no way to get to Ezra. So he has manipulated her to that. So I can see her decision being the right decision for Sabine.
Yeah, her intention is about getting Ezra back and finding Ezra, and not to just hand over the star map to, quote unquote, the bad guys here. Which I think Baylan is much more nuanced here, just purely because he is a grey Jedi. It goes back to sort of the classic Greeks of, you started a war over Helen of Troy, she is prepared to start a war in order to find Ezra Bridger, because that's exactly what Ahsoka warned her against. Is it worth that? And she's saying in this moment, well, it is, because this is my friend.
Yeah. I think, and it's actually a great point that you bring up there, because just remember the scenes we saw with Hera last week, dealing with the New Republic leaders, where they're going anything to not have a new war, and Hera's kind of going, I've fought wars before, I can do it again if it comes to it. Sabine is kind of that way as well. She grew up in war. She formed her family within that original war against the Empire. That's how she formed this group of the family around her, like Ezra, like Ahsoka. So it's an interesting character to have in this position.
As Hera says aboard the lead frigate of the New Republic forces, once a rebel, always a rebel.
There you go.
And, do you ever lose it? So there's that element to Sabine of going against authority. In this case, it's Ahsoka, like you say.
Basically, yeah.
But I think the other side of it is it's just really intriguing. It's great for the show, because all of a sudden you've got a character that you're immediately saying is good, doing something that is a bit blurred, really. It's in the grey. It's in the blurred margins.
There you go.
And that is really fantastic for me because it makes it intriguing now because I'm suddenly going, so when Ahsoka finds out about this, how's this all going to play out or fall out? You know, or just even when she was brought onto the ship, you know, how is it going to play out with Baylan's Skoll, as well? So again, it's like to Baylan, you know, silver-tongued or fork-tongued here in what he says, because he talks about his motives, and we've had a bit about that, you know, about, well, it's power, and all of this. And he, you know, sort of references this again as he's trying to persuade Sabine to hand it over. But again, you just don't really know. It's still a bit murky with Baylan's Skoll. And that's
it should be. Yeah.
what I really think is great so far in this series is that it's not playing to type, I guess.
You guys have turned me on this. So, and I think partially, and the only thing I'll say is it's probably you're pulling on a connection and an understanding of the Sabine character from Rebels.
Yeah.
And as someone who has had very limited interactions with that character by Rebels, I'm like, that character motivation for me is just tenuous right now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they'll just kind of flesh it out slightly a bit more.
Absolutely.
But everything you're talking about makes sense to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, now this is a story I'm getting deep behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the usual thing. We talk about these things and I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun of podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the show itself, now, I'll offer a little criticism of Ahsoka. The show itself shouldn't be asking you to have to know all of Rebels to understand this. So I do hope by the end of the series, everybody watching the show and only the show gets to like Sabine in the way that a Rebels fan likes Sabine. Because this is part of her character. This is that formed family that she got in there. It can't be just a line of dialogue to say, they're my family, and that's it.
No, I agree.
It did take 4 seasons to build it up when you watched the animated show, but I hope they're able to do some more development on these characters in the episodes that we're seeing each week here.
I mean, but also equally in Rebels, it actually, at least for me personally, it took a while to get to Sabine's character anyway, to kind of go, yeah, I like her as one of these rebels, you know? So,
because if this was Sabine from season 1 of Rebels, Ahsoka's entire ship while it was being fixed up would have just been covered in graffiti tags, because that was basically all the character that we knew in season 1 of Rebels. It was, she grabbed the paint cans and painted everything. That's kind of it. But over time, the character developed in the way it did. So I hope they're able to do some actual character development and show this character on screen, rather than people having to look up the Wikipedia to find out what she's like, or having to go back and watch the animated show.
I think the criticism is very fair. I think there's 4 episodes left. I'm going to say that in Filoni, I do trust quite a lot. And I trust in this universe they are building, especially the Heir to the Empire kind of storyline that they are building. And I trust Jon Favreau in terms of what they've done with this era of TV shows. So personally, I'm like, they may not fully flesh it out, and I think it's, as long as they do it enough that I find enjoyment and understanding, and then you get way more based on your love and understanding of that character from the Rebels, then I think they've done what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But I hope they
absolutely.
get there. Or more.
But also, just to counter Derek's point, because you said it in the first episode, there is 4 seasons of Rebels and 7 seasons of Clone Wars as well, in which this, you know, various characters that are appearing here have been fleshed out. So there's
backstory that you can go and watch. Yes,
there is a history there. Yeah. It isn't just being flung in there. It's coming from a place, and okay, there needs to be some explanation, but you can't suddenly revisit all the episodes of Rebels in order to get Sabine. Plus, Sabine as a character is, you know, however many years older and has changed, like Ahsoka has. So it's a balance, I reckon.
I agree. The one thing I actually would like, and I think this is something I've seen, and that Marvel do well, Marvel, MCU do well, they do the Legends snippets. 7 to 8 minute shows on Disney Plus, or on YouTube pulled together before a major film or TV show where they've kind of pulled together the history of that character from live action, and they kind of just go, here's all the things you need to know before the thing. That would actually be cool, going into maybe into whatever Dave Filoni's film ends up being. It's like, here's everything you need to know about Ahsoka from start to finish in the last while. Yeah. Here's everything you need to know about Sabine if Sabine makes it. Like, etc., etc., etc. Here's
Don't
Thrawn.
say she's not going to make it.
You know what I mean? Master versus Padawan. It's happened before. Who knows? We're probably going to get a fight off.
Yeah, maybe. The new trailer for the Marvels does the same thing for Marvel. It's actually taking all the stuff from WandaVision, from Miss Marvel TV show and Captain Marvel, putting them all together, because in case you haven't seen one of the 3 things you need to see this movie, here's the little bits you need to know going into it. Yeah. So yeah, I can absolutely see them doing it. And I know they have put together the list of essential episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars that you need to watch to understand Ahsoka's character. So they may do the same with Sabine, hopefully.
That was still like 20, 30 episodes.
It still was,
like, each one's half hour. I'm like, I'm a dad now. I ain't got time for that.
I love it.
Give me a 15-minute YouTube explainer. I've got that down. Maybe 20 minutes at a max on Disney Plus one night when he's asleep. Fine. But,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. One more thing that needs some explanation. Maybe we'll put it into the final, our final saber point.
Yes. Gentlemen, let's enter hyperspace. But before that, also, we entered... Oh!
Yeah.
Well, I do know. We discussed in our last episode. But, yeah, cool.
So,
Gentlemen, go crazy, please.
We're not going to go too crazy. There's not a huge amount of information about this. We know what it is because we've seen it before in the animated series Rebels. I have entitled this point as Ahsoka gets kicked back into the world between worlds, because that's effectively what happens. She gets kicked off the edge of the henge, and the next time we see her, she's in this place that we know from the animated shows is the world between worlds, a place that sits outside of time and space and the galaxy that we know and love in Star Wars, and we saw in, as I say, in the animated shows. But we don't know a huge amount about it. We know that within it, if you can navigate through it, you can get to places in time. You may be guided there by spiritual guidance, might bring you to a certain point in time or a certain point in space, but it's not been fleshed out a huge amount, and it was a creation of Dave Filoni, so we did expect we would have some visibility of it here.
Well, that's it, and we also we mentioned it in our last episode because of Elsbeth hearing Thrawn's voice as well across time and space, and whether it was taking that shortcut through the world between worlds, because he has Ezra, who was the person who could access it in Rebels. And that's why I talked about the owl, because of his affinity, his kind of affinity, and I, like you were saying, Chris, about, his particular force power could be really strong with animals. You have the wolves, the Lothcats, and this owl in the world between worlds. So no owl, but Ahsoka has also been in the world between worlds before as well.
She's been pulled from the world between worlds.
Yes, through into it by Ezra. So maybe that's why she's able to access it in this moment. So to save herself effectively from falling into the water after being knocked off the edge of the cliff by Baylan.
Yeah, because we're going to have to say maybe a lot.
Yes.
Because we don't know. We don't know how she could have ended in the world between worlds. We're not 100% sure if this is something that happens after a Jedi dies. They go to the world between worlds. So maybe Ahsoka has died and she's in the place where they learn their power of being a Force ghost and coming back. Maybe it's something like that.
Just don't know.
We don't know, but probably the bigger moment in here is that she meets up with Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. Her former master is standing there waiting for her. A massive moment.
And almost in the flesh by the looks. Like, not a Force ghost. No blue hue.
Yeah,
this was the
true.
bit that really, I was like, oh, wait. Oh, no, give me more now. Because I'm like, okay, Force ghosts, we've seen them. Completely understood. Know where it is. Flashbacks. Seen that. Yeah. Understood.
Something new.
Uh-huh. To the point where I'm like, Oh, how are you gonna? This is like you've just angered a whole nerd generation.
Have you?
No,
Well,
you
no, you haven't
Angered anybody.
You've
Chris.
introduced a new concept in
I'm
the
joking.
last,
Yes,
like, literally 15 seconds of a show.
Yeah.
I know.
Of which there is a next episode. It's not like it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So, if people are angered by that, then maybe just get off the show, because it's like, it makes no sense. Otherwise, they must have been really angry when they did the original Force Ghost.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not
I just thought this was so interesting.
Yeah.
Like this is one where I'm like, okay, are they like next episode we start getting life and death, heaven and hell of the Force users and get an understanding of what that means and where they go when they die? Or is this she is slowly drowning and her Force spirit has gone to the world between worlds? Like,
It
there's
could
so
be.
many cool things that they can do here.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
It could
I
be.
want to know what's happening, because
Absolutely.
if it was just a blue Force Ghost, I was like, cool, okay. Like she's seeing the vision of them. That's cool. The fact that it wasn't blue makes it the appetite and kind of just makes me go salivate at. Oh, now I want to know more.
And
But that's it. I mean, even like to me, it's just this space is familiar. You know, I think that's
And
all I
looks
can
amazing.
really say. So it's not a shock. I'm just really pleased they've introduced it, because it is both a physical and a spiritual element of the Force.
Absolutely.
And introduced in Rebels. So yes, it could be, like you said, is this the place where Jedi ghosts, once they've died, that this is the space where they go and can project into reality, because we have seen Ezra as an undead person interacting with this space.
Yep.
We've seen Ezra as a corporeal person alive interacting in this space, bringing someone else through a doorway into this space in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the Force ghosts or whether you died, and then you have it being dimensionless effectively.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that even if you've watched Rebels, you have no idea
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I will say it seems like Ahsoka is in this place, not a projected version of Ahsoka is visiting this place.
Yeah.
But likely on the other side, that's not true. Likely Anakin is not truly in this place. He's being seen in this place by Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So I hope that gets explained. It will get explained, I'm sure, next week. It has to be, as to what this is. But yeah, very excited to see it. Probably very tough for people who have never seen it before, seeing it in the last 2 minutes with no explanation of what's going on.
It won't be tough. It's excitement. And
Yeah,
it's like,
excitement,
right,
yes,
next
absolutely.
week. Let's get to next week.
I agree. We're 4 episodes into the show, and I love how glass half empty you were, Chris. And we only have 4 episodes left. We've had 4 episodes so far. We are a glass half full podcast, so we still have the same amount of time left in the show as has gone by. So this is our big moment, 4th episode in, the big cliffhanger that we've got. Anakin Skywalker here with Ahsoka.
So we have Ahsoka going into and entering into a world between worlds, but we also have the Eye of Sion entering into hyperspace
Yes, we
here as well, which is cool. As I said earlier, I'm just so glad they made that jump. I'm like, excellent.
Yeah.
Grand Admiral Thrawn, start strutting your stuff, because you'll be goose-stepping away, I guess, on some planet or something on the way to Peridia somewhere. So can't wait for that at some future point.
Yeah.
I do love that this was a ring, because as we've seen in The Last Jedi, that wasn't a ring.
Yeah.
Oh boy! Pancake Hera, if you will.
Yes.
Well, that's it. I mean, Hera and the Ghost, her ship, do manage to survive. And I do think I was there going, I can't believe she's taking Jason, her son, on a dangerous mission. But then I was like, but they're also on a military spaceship, which is also potential for attacks.
He lives on the biggest target in Home One. He lives on that ship. Yeah. So taking him off with his mom. It's
not unusual, but I'm glad she took Jason and Chopper along to Seatos. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
This was fun for me. I know you guys had literally said to me that you can't wait to see the live action version of the Ghost, and I was like, "Cool! This is I like." It looked the same way I had seen it in the animation. It looked great.
I had to check it 3 times to make sure it wasn't the Phantom that we saw Hera flying last time. And then I was like, no, this is massive. And then it gets to the front of the ship just before they go into hyperspace. After leaving Home One, I'm going, oh no, that looks exactly like the Ghost. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are joined by a squadron of X-Wing.
They certainly are.
Missing one X-Wing.
Yes, including one. Let's make sure we call out Captain Teva, who we saw in the Mandalorian. So him and his squadron are here to, of course, join Hera in this mission. But there is one member of the crew of the Ghost that is still somewhere else in the galaxy, not here.
Yes, Zeb.
Zeb, like who we just saw in the Mandalorian with his other captain there with all these X-Men pilots. So I was like, and we had just talked about, literally in our last episode, he was going to come in with Hera to save the day. And
that was a piece of feedback from Russell Hooper last week. That was his recommendation of what he thought was going to happen. So, yes.
So we're
have to give credit to Russell. Give credit to Russell. He was open for this and he got to see it. So, yeah.
So I just think it was just an interesting choice not to have him there. I suppose they'll have him and he'll be in the next episode or one of the following, and like it will get introduced.
Yes, I think he needs an intro as well. I think the fact that he was a very small throwaway Easter egg in Mandalorian isn't enough to have him just walk in here and join Hera. So the fact that they've kept him off screen for a while, hopefully that gives Zeb a big intro, because I really want to give him his moment to shine as well.
Well, given the state of the Ghost and the remaining X-Wings after they were in the flight path of this hyper jump by the Eye of Sion, then they look like they're pretty sort of dead in space at the moment. So maybe he is part of the relief that comes to help out.
Could be that.
So hopefully still a chance there.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Call a friend, yeah.
Yeah, no. The question as well then is just this is the glass half full. I was like, yeah, no, cool. We'll definitely hopefully see him next episode. Glass half empty is he's a lot of CGI to have in another 4 episodes. So it's like they may not. But
they've already done the CGI test in Mandalorian at least.
So I think it'd be interesting to see it's not how they get out of this, because we know there's also Ahsoka's ship is down on the planet and Hayang can literally fly up and grab and help fix the Ghost with them. And there's definitely, it's not a perilous, they're slowly careening into the atmosphere type thing. Yeah. But it does set up a good halfway point kind of in this episode. For the season as well. Exactly.
Yeah, a good halfway point. And we also get a very famous line from our newly introduced famous character, Jason, the son of Hera, who gets the "I have a bad feeling" line, one that we've heard in all Star Wars movies. So great to give it to Jason, isn't it?
I'm assuming he's Force sensitive. But it's kind of hinting at that.
In fairness, the first person that said it, I think, is Han Solo. He was I have a bad feeling about this was the first time it was said, as far as I remember. So it's not necessarily talking about Force sensitivity. We definitely had Han Solo say it at least once, and he's not Force sensitive. So
I'm suddenly now thinking it was Indiana Jones, but
I have a bad feeling about this.
Possibly was it? It was definitely as they were coming up to the Death Star in Star Wars, wasn't it? Yeah. So either Han Solo or Alec Guinness. I can't quite remember now.
Right. I know Han Solo says it at least once.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily saying he's Force sensitive, but it absolutely could be indicating that he is Force sensitive. He's already asked to become a Jedi, like his father before him. So we could be seeing that in the future. But at least we have that moment with Jason. I do also like that he gets to fly the Ghost as well.
Yeah, hit
co-pilot.
Hit the jump to the Denab system. That was cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and Chopper's behind him just going, just like, why can't I do it? I used to do that. Why? Like, what the little green dude? Come on.
But it's weird because my dad always allowed me to change the gears on the car as we were going along the road.
And that's how the gearbox got
Probably
4 times.
Probably. But
6-year-old going,
nonetheless,
what the hell?
I could empathise with that moment.
There you go. Good stuff. Anything else about the jump into hyperspace or the moments in the world between worlds?
No, nothing from me.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's the episode in total. Yep. Since we went into crazy fan theories last week about who Marrok is, do you want to hear the new fan theory? Because we're going to have to talk about it. The new fan theory that we didn't talk about last week. It's not new. It was around last week. But we've covered 2 seasons of The Bad Batch. Guess what the internet rumor about who Shin Hati is? The YouTube rumor that's out there is, could this possibly be a grown-up Omega?
No.
Exactly.
Age does not work.
Yeah. It's because she has a blonde bob, like we saw on Omega in the 2nd season of The Bad Batch. But I wanted to make sure I said it out loud on our podcast because we have podcasts about both seasons of The Bad Batch, and also because Chris said, in order to watch the show, you have to watch all the seasons of Clone Wars, all the seasons of Rebels, and now apparently you might also have to watch all the seasons of The Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's what they set it up as. They set it like the character motivation alone would just be so dramatically different. You can't do that.
Do you know how they've explained it?
Yeah.
Explained that? What if she lost all of the Bad Batch and that has turned her to the dark side?
Nope.
There you go. That is a rumor. I don't believe it at all, but wanted to make sure we all talked about it.
Technically, Hati is a grey Jedi, so...
Well, yeah, because I presume they're saying that as a clone, Omega won't have gone through the full Jedi training and will not have completed it if she is Force sensitive, which we also haven't seen in Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We actually haven't seen Omega have Force sensitivity in Bad Batch.
Yeah,
because
that was been alluded to. We've discussed
it has.
Mostly by me.
But Chris alluded to him wanting to be, to be true. Yes,
I'm building it. I love the idea.
There you go.
I love you, internet. Don't ever change.
Yeah.
Don't think I don't think that's one that will stick. But
that is a non-viable theory, according to TV podcast industries.
Yes. So, gentlemen, with all those notes and that crazy theory done, and come on, usually those crazy theories come from me. Let's get on to our final thoughts for this episode. Mr. Harrison, take it away. What are your final thoughts on episode 4 of Ahsoka, Fallen Jedi?
Well, I absolutely loved this episode of Ahsoka. I'd give it 5 way of worldly owls out of 5. I just adored it. I thought the action was fantastic. I loved the moments between characters, such as with Huyang, telling them to stick together, and then they just didn't. The lightsaber battles were great, and I was just on the edge of my seats thinking, who's going to die? Primarily Hati and Baylan, because they're not going to kill off Ahsoka and Sabine. Sabine's already been sort of jabbed with the lightsaber already, so I was kind of like going, uh-oh, this doesn't look good. So it didn't play out as I expected, so I was just like, oh wow, there was this euphoric moment with that. Euphoric moment with the fact that they didn't stop the Eye of Sign jumping into hyperspace. I mean, it really makes me sound like I'm a bad guy here, because as well, what I'm going to say next is Baylan's Skoll just becomes lovelier and lovelier throughout this series. I just absolutely am taken with this character and what he's bringing with his apprentice Shin Hati, who I really enjoy, and the interaction of Baylan and Ahsoka in this episode to me was just like cherry on top, chef's kiss. Winning the Lotso, it just felt really epic and meaningful and powerful, and I just absolutely loved it. And if that wasn't enough, we got what we were talking about last week, which was the World Between Worlds, which was, I was so happy that they brought this, because I love how Dave Filoni brings the Force mysticism to his shows. And I mean, even to what you said, Chris, about Marrok, you know, the dust, something different from what I've seen or heard of before, you know, and whether it's linked to the witchcraft of the Night Sisters and Morgan Elsbeth. So really, really enjoyed this episode. 5 Way of Worldly Owls out of 5 for me. Christoph, what are your final thoughts for Ahsoka episode 4, Fallen Jedi?
Loved it. Did really enjoy it. I questioned motivations here and there initially on the first watch, second watch. And then again, just having this discussion with you guys again, kind of just understanding some of that history of Sabine and her motivations, opening it up a bit more for me. Very interested to see where they take this, and I will kind of reserve judgment at the end of well, they should have pulled X thread more, kind of, or explained a bit more in this. Just because it's unlike, it's not like the Mandalorian or Boba Fett where they're kind of just, everyone's at square one. For example, this is a lot of people, or some people, a large proportion, because we know Rebels was watched by a large population, it have seen and these characters and understand their motivations and the what drives them. Some of us haven't. So again, it's just that kind of like, ooh, wait, hold on, huh? But love dusting. Like, Marrok is like a candle in the wind, just literally whispers of smoke. Or J.J. Abrams is getting ready to sue Lucas. Either way,
hey, since he did 2 Star Wars movies, he can't be holding anything against them, right?
No, exactly. But overall,
they're holding something against him, given the quality of those movies. But hey,
let's leave that there. Overall, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next 4 episodes. Derek, what about yourself? What are your final thoughts on episode 4 of Ahsoka?
I absolutely love this. Chris, you mentioned earlier on some of the influences of Japanese cinema on Ahsoka and on the battles that are in here. That is so much more my style than Westerns. I hate Westerns, and that was the majority of Mandalorian being based on the man with no name walking into a town. Love The Mandalorian, it's a great show, but this is so much more my style. I'm really, really enjoying the influences that they're taking into the show. We've seen something brand new here, as you guys mentioned, with Marrok. We've also seen brand new to live action, The World Between Worlds. And next week, we're going to see a brand new galaxy in Star Wars, something else brand new to this world. People have asked Star Wars to break away from the Skywalker saga over and over again, and here we are. Dave Filoni's actually delivering on it, and in a really good way. Episode was great to watch. John, you mentioned some great points, and Chris, you mentioned some great points about this episode as well. So not going to repeat those, but this was awesome. Absolutely loved this episode and where it's taking us. We're at that halfway point in the series. We're now jumping into a new galaxy. What a perfect way to end it. And then the return of Anakin Skywalker in this show with his most famous Padawan. So very cool.
Yeah, maybe it could twist into a Futurama-esque type of thing where everyone gets pulled from this galaxy into the new one. That really would change things up.
Would leave behind the Skywalker saga, yeah. Of course, I just said that, and Anakin Skywalker has just been introduced. I just said they're leaving the Skywalker saga behind. But Anakin Skywalker is there to say goodbye to the Skywalker saga.
He's waving them off.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff.
So, gentlemen, I think we are having a heat wave in Ireland and the UK at the moment. So let's head on over to the cantina to wet our whistle on some blue milk, green milk. Shall we head on to the pub quiz? John, do you want to take us away with your question for episode 4 of Ahsoka?
Yes, fellow quizzers, fellow rebels, it is the Cantina Pub Quiz. And here is question 4 for episode 4. How many X-Wing fighters accompany Hera's ship, the Ghost, to the Denab system?
See, Chris, you did oversell it earlier on.
Yeah, you really did.
It should be relatively easy.
It's a simple addition.
Yeah. Or a simple exercising counting, I think.
Yeah. Well, or a subtraction.
Well, no, it's how many accompany her as she ship, not how many are left at the end of the episode. Because that would be subtraction.
That's true. And now people see why I'm not good at maths. But I talk for a living, not add numbers.
Good stuff. John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Certainly. How many X-Wing fighters accompany Hera's ship, the Ghost, to the Deneb system?
Good stuff. That's 4 questions out of 8. Put the answers together. Email us at the end of the season with all the correct answers to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with a chance of winning some Star Wars Ahsoka goodies.
Yes. So, gentlemen, let's head on over now to the feedback section of this episode. Don't forget, if you want to get your emails and thoughts read, you can send them on over to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or head on over to facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, where we have a spoiler post for each and every episode. Throw your comments in there along with all the other fellow rebels and other industrialist members, and we will read them out on each and every episode. First up, we have an email from the one and only Coffee and Vodka, who had this to say. Greetings, fellow doubling down defenders. That's it. I'm cancelling my Padawan order and quitting the Jedi Order. Can you recall a Padawan master situation in Star Wars history that went completely hunky-dory? I cannot understand why this and last episode weren't condensed into one solid action-packed hour. Anyway, if you like lightsaber fights and flat-footed good guys, this installment rates high. And it was good to see Hera enter the fray, no matter how frailest it turned out to be so far. Knowing little to nothing about timeline, was Vader dead at the time of happening of the series? Whatever the case, I guess this is the Anakin Ahsoka would have recognized rather than his more iconic appearance. As for the fight that sent her there, awesome! Rey was not just there to be wise eye candy. All in all, the events were affecting the special effects great, and the hopeless hero situation fully laid out. As for the identity of the person in black, never mind. Can't wait to see the Grand Admiral in all his blueness. 3.5 countless can I count on yous. Bring your son to work days. And villains far, far away out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Bring your son to work today.
Absolutely. And villains far, far away.
Like that.
Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. And, you know, I'm completely sympathetic to your idea that these should have been mashed together. Mm-hmm. That would have been probably one of the most phenomenal pieces of Star Wars TV ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they get their budget split by episode, like most TV shows do, even though they have their series budget. But so they're going, right, we'll spend $200 million on episode 4 and $200 million on episode 3. But if you go into the budget manager and go, we're going to spend $400 million on episode 3, they go back and rethink, lads. So that's probably why. But the good news is, it's available right now to watch back to back, episode 3 and 4. All squished together.
That's true.
Yeah. It's cool, huh? Only had to wait a week. Usually have to wait a couple of years between
so
them.
Long.
But you do mention there, Coffee and Vodka, that you're not fully aware of the timeline, I suppose, or not fully cognizant of what exactly is happening in the timeline. Right now, we're about 5 years after the end of Return of the Jedi, so that's when Darth Vader died and the Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker came along. But this version of Anakin Skywalker that she sees is the one from Clone Wars, so that's about 30 years ago. 25 or 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
About that.
So she's seeing him as she would have seen him the last time he was alive before he became Vader.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee Vodka. Over on Facebook, Russell Hooper says, well, so much for Marrok being Starkiller or Ezra. I think the Inquisitors need to have a meeting. If you face Ahsoka with a stupid spinning lightsaber, you are gonna die. Another too short episode. Once you take out the recap of the credits, it's only about 30 minutes. Okay, I'll beat that dead bantha some other time. Ahsoka in the world between worlds with Vader music playing as the episode ends, according to the closed captioning, and with that Clone Wars era smirk. What's that mean, I wonder? Glad to see Hera took my advice from last week, but where is Zeb? I'm thinking Jason is going to somehow repair the map. But even if he does, how will the Ghost crew follow? Interesting. I wonder what Jason would play on the map. I'm thinking it's that imprint that's left on Ahsoka's hand that's going to lead us
it could be
to the next galaxy.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Russ. I'm glad about your suggestion from last week playing out so quickly as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the Ghost crew, apart from Zeb, back together.
Yeah, exactly. Although, I'm just now wondering, given what they had to do to get the coordinates, how is a handprint of it going to be?
They add a bit of fire. They like
Ahsoka's
shine
gonna
a
lose a
light.
hand.
She might.
Yeah, they basically cut it off.
Like
shine a light
so
through
many
it.
members of the Star Wars elite
Yes.
and her master before her.
Oh my goodness. That'd be crazy.
There you go.
Yeah.
He lost more than a hand. He lost an arm, a leg,
He did.
ability
Good
to breathe
stuff.
with a respirator.
Yeah.
And then lost his hand again
Yeah,
in
true,
Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
But
Good
he didn't have
stuff.
the high ground, so it's fine.
Good stuff, Russell. Moving on to our other bit of feedback from the newly titled Darth Von Doom, which of course Victor was more than happy to retitle himself for the Star Wars podcast.
Love
So
it.
yeah, great stuff, Victor, or should I say Darth Von Doom?
Yes, well done, Darth. It's so much more in theme with her. You should just change it each theme. It's the same, like we do our Industrialist, our Rebels. Victor Von Doom, you have been given now a challenge. Each and every series that you write feedback on, make sure there's a themed Von Doom.
So Aes Sedai Von Doom when we get over to Wheel of Time, or the Dragon Reborn Von Doom,
Or Rand Von Doom.
maybe.
There you go. There you go.
Good stuff. Excellent. Well, Darth Von Doom says, greetings, New Republicans. Well, that settles the Marrok identity debate. Ahsoka and Sabine should have followed Huang's advice and stayed together. I'm happy the ghost survived. Who or what pulled Ahsoka once again into the world between worlds? Nice to see Anakin, but will she have some decisions to ponder? Vader theme is ominous. Still hoping for a Zeb appearance. The Force is strong in you, Darth Von Doom. Great stuff, Darth, or should I say Victor, for the feedback. Yes, I'm happy the ghost survived, actually, as well. And I must say, I didn't catch, and you're the second person now after Russell to say about the Vader theme. So I didn't catch that either.
Oh, I caught it. Definitely caught it.
I missed it.
I didn't connect it that it had an intention that Anakin's going to be a bad guy, immediately when he meets with Ahsoka. In fact, I hope they have a little reuniting moment, because in Clone Wars and in Rebels, we've actually seen the battle between the two of them. So we've seen them, resolve the situation in a lightsaber battle. I hope we have a moment of the two characters meeting, Ahsoka and Anakin, after everything they'd gone through. So I think that would be kind of cool to have a dialogue between the two characters.
Yeah.
Look at me, the action fan, looking for dialogue between two characters.
I know.
And the screams of Star Wars fans across the world hoping for another live action lightsaber battle between the two of them.
Look at you trying to get them to have tea and crumpets in the world between worlds.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Thanks, Darth Von Doom.
Yes, thank you so much, Darth Van Doom. Next up, we have Dr. Bob Phillips who had this to say. Snappy, like the trees and torsos of the Seatos forest, and saber-packed to the top. I did get flashbacks to trying to beat a 6-year-old at Fruit Ninja on the DS during the Baylan fight, though. Enjoyed the Mando versus Jedi element being stronger in this one, and while Wren may not have the Force, she was certainly forceful with those wrist rockets. When the flashbang went off and Shin vanished, I did think, how come Sabine hasn't got them? As I think her cartooning creation was very explosive.
She was.
Not being immersed in the lore, I am wondering if Ahsoka has been spirited away by the dead Anakin Vader, or is she in Jedi Purgatory, or another variant? Can't wait to find out, though. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Variants are more of a Marvel thing. She's not in a multiverse. Well, that could be, she's going to peer through a portal and then you're going to see Captain America. Don't know why. Just Captain America's just going to be there, you know?
Yeah.
Chris Evans just walking by in a Jedi robe in blue with a shield. It'd be fine.
That'd be cool. I'd be up for that.
I do like Dr. Bob Snappy, like the trees of the Seatos forest, because I was like, ever since the sequel trilogy, the trees have gotten an absolute beating from the battles.
Yeah. And I think even in Ahsoka's appearance in Mandalorian, didn't she come out of the forest and cut down trees to block her way and to hide her route as well? So, definitely historic in Star Wars now, that you have to cut down a few trees if you have a lightsaber battle
definitely
nearby. And it was cool looking at this as well. Really enjoyed it. Great stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
That's all the time for feedback we have in this episode. If you've sent in more feedback for this one, don't worry, we will get to it on episode 5. As always, fear not, my fellow Jedi and Sith and everything else in between. It is time we act like Ahsoka and fall off the edge of a cliff into the great unknown. Until next episode, next week, we will be back for episode 5 of Ahsoka. And we are also covering The Wheel of Time, season 2, number 2. For those who don't speak French or really bad French, depending on.
Is that French?
I don't know what
Part
it was.
2. There you go.
Terrible
Wheel of Time,
French.
Part 2. It's the Charlie Sheen version, like Hot Shots. Yes, we are covering The Wheel of Time, season 2. We just, last week, launched our first 3 episodes that dropped on Prime Video. And this week we are talking about episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, season 2. With all that being said and done, I believe it is time we are spirited away like Sabine Wren into the galaxy far, far away, known as Nighttime and Derek editing.
Absolutely.
Us.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're enjoying the magic and the world between worlds in Ahsoka, come on over and check out Wheel of Time. There's lots of magic over there,
Absolutely.
and lots of different worlds between worlds, and traveling between different places, and lots of intrigue and fun. Yeah,
Well,
looking forward to covering more of.
And I am going to be spirited off to the world between gin and tonic.
Excellent.
In a moment.
Excellent. Ice.
So a lemon
Ice.
or an ice cube?
Yeah, ice is what goes between those two things, but then merges with them.
Don't have enough time. Got to get to bed.
Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us, and talk to you again next time.
Speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow rebels, for joining us. Remember, in the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, and keep rebelling. And may the Force be with you. Bye.
Bye.